Good afternoon, everybody, respected guests and fellow dignitaries. Uh, Professor Padi didn't tell me I could present it over the screen, otherwise, I would have come up with a fancy presentation. Nevertheless, I'll not bore you with I think a lot of sessions have been conducted so far. I'll start with the concept of AI. Right, I'll touch upon briefly, and then I'll move to the next points. The AI has been here since 1950s with Alan Turing's famous question, "Can machines think?" That single question has set the standard on the set the stage for decade of research and development, and AI has evolved from simple algorithms and theoretical discussions to what we see as a practical tool today. So every technology disruption that has been around here, uh, we it definitely follows an S curve, right? It starts slowly, and it grows. Then it has its growth phase. Then it becomes a plateau. And we have been feeding data and intelligence to the models. We have been training the models since decades. And until 2 years ago, something interesting happened, that the machines have started conversing back, and that too in our own language, right? That which we call today as generative AI or Gen AI. And we are just yet scratching the surface. It's less than tip of the iceberg. The potential is endless, and the new world will always call for enterprises to be AI ready, or any organization, as Madam touched upon the media and entertainment industry. So any organization or an enterprise, when it thinks to adopt AI, it has to be dependent on two vectors. It is always a struggle between two vectors: the positives, which is anchored upon the what is the possibility in the future, what problems it can solve, and there is definitely a negative vector which is anchored on the uh, anchored on the current status quo or the current ways of working. There is definitely a huge incentive that needs to go through the organization just to so that they can take that leap and adopt any new technology. And the adoption will only happen when the positives outweigh the negatives, right? And how do when an organization thinks about adopting AI, how does it actually go about it? Uh, there are so there is no single critical element that they need to take care of. On the contrary, there will be many instruments or the many elements that they need to think that it should work in unison so that to make it a grand success. The first and the most important for them or any organization would be the data. Data is the lifeblood of all the lifeblood of your any model that you develop, right? And a bad quality data will eventually lead into a bad quality model, and your AI model is as good as or as bad as the data that you are training it on, right? And the second element would be the process. And if you, depending on your scale of ambition, if you take one process and try to automate it, then I would argue that you are just doing the RPA, not actually scaling it up. And it goes beyond just automating the process. The organization has to reimagine the process and sometimes remodify it, right? The third element would be the technology, and it is perhaps the most well understood and yet a rapidly changing piece in the entire game. And we have seen, as I told, right, technology disruption will follow an S curve, right? We have seen it with the internet. It although it started with 70s, it to for the internet to be productive, we had to wait till 2 decades, right, until the browser came in. Only then I think in the 90s, I think we were really reaping the benefit of the internet. It still continues, right? And the other aspect would be the people. So your people with the traditional setup, when the new skills are emerging, the people also have to see a right mindset, whether they will be able to reskill, whether they are willing to reskill. Are you enabling a culture for them to reskill? That is quite important. Culture, as I was recalling from some of the an interesting conversation from my B school days, the culture is strategy for breakfast, right? And then I was kind of relating it to the organizations. Of course, if you do not inculcate the right culture, whatever strategy you are going to take, it is destined to fail. And so all these pieces needs to come together. And it is not about the problems or the present day problems, how we are solving it with AI. I'd like to close my statement with that. So how differently we are able to think about the problems and how differently we are going to solve, this is what will matter. Thank you.